My entire life, I did think that I was Japanese and Irish, but I just found out that I am Japanese and Filipino.
You're kidding. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Lonnie T here with Stan the Man McQuay. I have not seen the Valley guy in I don't know how long, man. It's been years. The last time I think I saw you was at the Legions when I came on stage after you remember I announced that was your retirement.
That's right. Oh my God.
That
Great
was
memory.
2016. I think that was
2000. Wow. 16?
Yeah.
18?
Right?
I'm not sure. I think 2018.
Was it that long? Oh, I thought it was maybe 16. I don't know.
I really don't know either. Time flies.
Yeah. So anyway, I got to know you a little better in 2010, even though I emceed with you a lot of your shows. I did a cover story for you on Iron Man magazine.
That's right.
Things about you. So let's back up and let the viewers find out a lot more about Stan the Man.
Okay.
Half Japanese, half Irish, the half Irish, half Japanese sensation, huh?
That's funny. You know what? I do have a news flash. Not that I don't know if anyone would care, but my entire life, I did think that I was Japanese and Irish, but I just found out that I am Japanese and Filipino.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it's kind of a.
Let's go back and erase all the
Yeah,
stuff.
I know it's so crazy, but like, I didn't find out till after 50 years that the father that raised me was not my biological father, and they finally told me. And
wow.
It was a little confusing, heartbreaking, angry. That's all the above. I felt every emotion. So
when did you find that out? How did that tell us about this?
Yeah. So, again, my entire life, I thought my father, who is Irish, that's why my last name is McQuay. But come to find out that, when they met, they never really told me this whole story, but my mother was pregnant. And that's my dad kind of came into the picture and just kind of took me on, I guess, and just decided that I was going to be his son. My biological father, I have no idea who that is. Never was in the picture. It just, was a fly-by-night thing, I believe.
Wow. And how long ago did this happen?
Well, that happened when I was born, but I just found out just under about a year ago.
Wow. And I can tell it's still shaking you up.
It was strange, man. It was to go through something like that, like when my mother was telling me, I literally just my heart sank into my stomach, and I just kind of felt like I was on one of those Jerry Springer shows or something.
Well, you've been on a few shows, so
yeah, we've got a few shows. I've been on TV a lot.
Yeah, I changed the channel. There you are in that suit and tie. But anyway,
there you go. We can talk about that another time, Lonnie.
Woo, I got a lot of questions for you. Anyway, let's go back to your early life. You guys moved to what, the Valley, when you were like 5 years old or something?
Yeah, so I was born in Japan, in Yokosuka, Japan. My father was in the military. So from there, he was from Illinois. So we moved to Illinois for the first few years. And then my mother got pregnant with my younger brother. And that's when we moved to Los Angeles. So I've been in Los Angeles since 78, I believe.
You remember what part of Illinois you lived in?
Murfreesboro, which is a small southern town near Carbondale.
Because I was born in Quincy, Illinois, and lived in Peoria, Illinois for a year.
Yeah. I'm somewhat familiar.
Anyway, you came out and fast forward a little bit. You started playing football. I think you went to Canoga Park High School.
Correct. Good memory.
You played football at Canoga Park High School. You were a running back, right?
Yes, sir.
And did pretty well.
Yeah, I did. I played football, pretty much since I was about, I think, 8 or 9 years old. So I knew what I was doing. I was just a little undersized, but when I got to high school, I kind of broke out. I'd say my junior year, made all league, all conference, made won tons of awards. I was MVP during my senior year as a tailback. And I had a really great football career as a high schooler.
5'7", 170-pound running back.
I was a little smaller than that. That's why I started lifting weights.
Oh, that what got you into lifting weights, playing football?
That initially, that's what got me into lifting weights because yeah, I thought I wanted to take it to the next level. It was partly that I've been in martial arts, been fighting my entire life. So this was back in when UFC 1, 2, and 3, all those were just coming out, and I thought in my mind that I wanted to be a fighter. It wasn't called UFC, it wasn't called MMA back then. It was just I wanted to be a fighter. I just wanted to put on more size and add more power. So that's kind of what really got me into the gym.
Well, when did you start to have a passion for bodybuilding? I'm sure
Well,
people came and said, "Man, you got a hell of a physique. You should get on stage."
yeah, I never really had a passion. It wasn't. I just kind of fell into bodybuilding. It wasn't until I was working out with a bunch of football players in the gym, and there was a flyer, and we saw the flyer. And back then, I thought the flyer was for like a hard body competition where you go to the club and they pull the guys from the audience, they get them on stage, and guys take the shirts off, and the girls go crazy, and whoever wins whatever it was they were giving away. So my girlfriend at the time said, you should come to my gym, which is the Powerhouse Gym in Chatsworth. There's a lot of big bodybuilders here. Maybe they could show you something because I didn't know what I was doing. So I said, okay, I'm gonna cheat in this little competition amongst the five of us, and I'm gonna go to the Powerhouse Gym. And that's when I hired a trainer who was a bodybuilder, and I showed him the flyer, and he sees it, and he says, "This is not a hard body competition. This is actual bodybuilding show." And the bodybuilding show at the time, it was a Tournament of Champions. And so he says, there's the show going this weekend. Let's go check it out. So I said, all right, I'll check it out. So when we show up there, I walk in the auditorium and the door's open and I see these guys in the Speedos. And I said, no, this is not for me. So as I'm watching the show, I'm just shaking my head. There's no way in hell I'd ever do that. And while I was there, Lou Swick and Robin Chang were there filming their ESPN television show, American Muscle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's when Robin Chang pulled me out of the audience and says, hey, you have a great look. Are you interested in competing? I told him no. They said, why not? I said, that I'm not wearing that thing that those guys are wearing. And so they said, well, how about this? Would you want to be on TV? I said, maybe. So I showed up to Venice, the Venice Boardwalk, 6 a.m. the next day, and they started to pitch their new bodybuilding show that they wanted to promote, which was Muscle Mania. And I kind of got turned on in the sense of, they were promoting it as a natural federation. And at the time, I didn't know anything about steroids, nor did I want to do steroids. So they kind of sold me on this new competition. And ever since then, I that's what happened. I just got ready for my first show and I just got hooked.
Well, you entered that competition several times, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I did a few shows. I immediately got sponsored by ProLab Natral. They gave me a nice fat chunk. I picked up a few smaller contracts. I literally from the first 2-3 months of competing, I was already pretty much fully sponsored. I was making money, and I just got hooked. And I started winning the shows. My goal at the time was to turn pro in the Muscle Mania Federation. So, yeah, Lou Swix flew me around the world, helping him promote the show. I was on TV. I was in the magazines immediately. So my career literally just took off. And that's kind of like, how my name came to be.
And eventually you veered into the NPC.
Yeah. So what happened was, at the time there was no social media. So it was just magazine coverage, and all the magazine covers, it was always the NPC guys. And it wasn't really any of the Muscle Mania, none of the natural stuff, because it was a competing federation. So I remember seeing all the magazines, and I just was like, I want to compete against these guys. They just looked a lot bigger. Obviously, I can tell they were on, PEDs, but I just wanted to see how I fared, So I remember I entered my first NPC show, which was at Culver City back then. You might have even been emceeing it. I don't even know. It was so long ago. It was 96. And it was the Ironman. That's the show I did. And I qualified for the USA's that same year, entered the USA's. I think there was something like 42 guys. And I ended up taking fourth, competing in the middleweights as a natural. And I was just so in awe being backstage because it was just a totally different feel than being on stage with the Muscle Mania guys. Clearly the guys were a lot bigger, a lot thicker. And it just got me really motivated to maybe, possibly take it to the next level. Let me see how far I can go in this federation. So that's what happened. I just kind of went there. I was really like enthusiastic about the competition. I wanted to be against the best, and that's where we are. We just kind of like took it and ran with it.
I emceed the USA's that you were in, and you kept going back and had some close calls for a while, and then ended up eventually winning your pro card by taking your class at the nationals.
Correct.
So that was, you had a long, tough road, but you made it through.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, guys don't realize how hard it really was to become a pro bodybuilder back in the day. I mean, I won the USA. I came back and I won the USA's, did not turn pro because back then only the overall would take
Right.
the pro card. So,
Then
I was the USA champion, but still an amateur.
Didn't you get second a couple times?
So I took first at the USA's, and then I said, I need to go to nationals. I went to nationals. I took second twice. I lost once to Eric Bowie and Jimmy Canyon.
They Chop Bowie beat you, huh?
Bowie beat me at one of them, and Jimmy Canyon beat me in another. And then I just came to the realization I'm outgrowing this class. So I took a full year off, and then I entered the 2006. Took a long time. 2006
at 196
nationals as a light heavy.
Yeah, I think you were 190. Where'd they run that? Where did he get that video of me? Oh no, that was you. Okay. Yeah, you got I'm trying to think, I'm looking at my notes. I had you at weighing in, I think at 192 at the Nationals, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. Is that a little off, or do you think that's about what it was?
Might have been 192, but I just remember being in line, and the long line, it was, I don't remember how many guys, it was 30 plus. I remember being in line, and every guy in front of me weighed 196 and a quarter, like literally. And I knew that we weren't even close to that because my off seasons were probably roughly around that weight. And when I got on the scale, I think it was right around 190, maybe lighter than 192 or whatever. And I felt crushed. I immediately felt like I'm going to lose this show because I'm just way too small. And it just goes to show, it really, the number on the scale does not matter when it comes to competing. I mean, the judges don't know what you weigh, so that kind of changed things, my whole perspective then.
It's great that you say that, because what bothered me, one of the things that bothered me the most in covering the industry for over 3 decades was these athletes thinking, I have to tell the judges. They didn't say they're telling the judges, but by saying they were 10 pounds heavier than they were trying to send a message to the judges. Hey, don't judge me down because you think I'm small. I'm big. I'm not 180. I'm 190.
Right.
And I say it doesn't matter what you weigh. It matters what you look like.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So you get your pro card, and then what happens?
So I get my pro card in 2006, and there was no other divisions in IFBB Pro. It was literally just open. It wasn't even called open. It was just pro bodybuilding, right? So it wasn't, I pretty much had told myself, okay, I achieved an amazing goal. I got, my IFBB credentials. And from that point on, I decided I'm going to be done with bodybuilding. I'm going to keep working out, but my competitive days are over. I didn't really see any purpose in getting on stage with, the likes of, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler. I was not enthusiastic about that at all. So I literally sat out for a couple of years just working out. And then I don't remember who it was that contacted me from the IFBB, and they had said that they were going to start a new division, which was going to be the 202 division.
Yes, that was the first one.
That was the first one. So, I sat back and I kind of waited. I wanted to see who was going to do it. And I believe one of the first people was Richard Jones. Richard Jones was the one that I think he had been competing in the open, and he was going to finally just drop down and basically take over that class. So I wanted to see what was going to happen with that.
The Sean Ray lookalike, Richard Jones, won the USA.
That's right.
Yeah. So how'd you do when you finally got up there and put it on the line?
Yeah. So I did my pro debut at the Dexter Jackson Classic. I was in Jacksonville, Florida. I was nervous as hell. Didn't know what to expect. and I ended up winning my pro debut, which instantly qualified me for the Olympia in my very first year.
Wow, what a meteoric rise. So you
Yeah,
go to Olympia.
I went to
And
Olympia, and that was the first time I had a rude awakening because pretty much every show my entire career, I was either winning or I was, placing first or second. And it wasn't until I got to that show where it was obviously the best of the best. And I was just a nervous wreck. I haven't been so nervous in my life, and I just couldn't eat. I couldn't get a pump, and it was the worst place I've gotten. I got 16th, which is like everyone's a 16th after 15th, right?
right. Yeah. Well, it's the first time out, like you say, you were probably in a state of shock to see
Yeah, I
how
was
big
just
guys looked, even at that weight.
absolutely. I mean, it was really big guys. The king of the 202 back then was Kevin English,
Well, how come? How
and
Kevin 5'5"?
he was like 5'5", probably maybe 5'4",
You
and
were one of
barely making weight.
all of a sudden. Before you were one of the shorter guys in your class. Now you're one
Yes.
of the tallest guys in the class.
Yeah, I had guys like Jose Raymond call me basketball player. I was the tallest in the class.
Yeah. Well, there were some great bodybuilders in there.
Yes.
Continue through your pro career where you went.
So we stuck it out in the 202 division. I did pretty well with that. That was a good way for me. But years down the line, I won another show, qualified again for the Olympia, and then the federation decided they wanted to change it up again, and they moved the scale from 202 to 212.
Which I liked, but you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't like that one because my 212 was like my off-season weight. I was a hard gainer, so but I did well. I won the Detroit Pro, qualified for the Olympia again, and competed in the Olympia and twice in the 212 division. I took 7th twice, which was a lot better. But it just got to the point where I just didn't, you come to the realization that I can only be so big. I can only take so many drugs. I can only eat so much chicken, train so hard. It just comes to the realization, I was standing backstage, standing in line behind Flex Lewis. And I just remember looking at him from behind. I was looking at his calves. I was looking at his waist, his back, his forearms. And I was just like, my God, this guy does not look normal. I mean, his calves were like diamonds and the forearms looked just like the calves. And I'm just like thinking, there's no way in hell, like, none of us in this line can match up with that. And it just came to realization that, the last defining part that makes these guys winners is the genetic potential. And, I had amazing genetics, but to win the Olympia, you got to have exceptional genetics, the genetics that fit the profile that they're looking for bodybuilding. And he had that. And I just thought to myself, I'm never going to have that. I don't care if I inject synthol all over or I take, 20 IUs of HGH a day, it's not going to happen. So I kind of just quit chasing that dream and letting it beat me up. I took some time off again, and then Federation calls again, and they say, hey, we're going to introduce another class, and we want you to be a part of it. It's called the Classic Physique Division.
And classic physique to fit you perfect.
Yeah, I think the concept was good. I think the weight parameters now are good, but like the way they set the weight parameters was not good because, see, in 2016, I competed in the Olympia 212 division. I weighed 205. 2018 was the first year, I believe, of the classic physique division. And for my height, the parameter was 175 pounds. That was smaller than when I competed in the middleweights back in 90s, in the late 90s. But I decided I'm going to do it. I committed. So I literally melted off. Again, I competed at the Olympia 205. The next time I was on the Olympia stage, I was 175.
Wow. What a difference. Now explain to our viewers if they don't understand the difference in classic compared to regular bodybuilding. Was height.
So regular bodybuilding, let's say open and the 212 division is basically just like you see in the magazines or TV. It's bodybuilding poses where in the shorter trunks, and with classic physique, they want the classic trunks, which were a little bit wider in the waistline, and they limit the poses down. There's no most muscular pose. They replace that with a classic physique pose. And then the most important is there's weight parameters for every inch of height there is. So they don't want guys that are going to be too blown out of proportion and, really kind of attract more of the mainstream audience of people that look at that and say, hey, I can do that.
So what happens from there?
Yeah. So the first year, I literally killed myself. We went an entire year of really strict keto just so I can melt this muscle off. I didn't do much cardio.
Excuse me.
What's
When
that?
you are you talking about? Did you have a trainer?
Yeah, I was working with Charles Glass my entire pro career, and my coach was the Dave Kalick, rest in peace.
Okay, two really experienced, knowledgeable people for sure.
Yes. So we just went to work. My starting weight again, my off season weight. I was at that time, I was like 210, 215, and we needed to be 175. So it was like I've never done that much cardio in my life, and never ate so little in my life for the entire year. So I ended up competing at the very first classic physique show, which was held in Culver City. Danny Hester ended up winning that show. I took second. And then I went over to the Utah Pro, which was right after that, and I won that show, and then qualified and went on to the Olympia again.
Well, you not being the biggest guy in the room, you really had a successful career, a great career as an amateur, an outstanding career on the pro level. You have to be happy with what you achieved, even though it may be not quite as high at the Olympia. Seventh in the world ain't too shabby.
Yeah, I had to keep putting things in perspective. Every time I would go back to the gym, I would be proud inside, but on the outside, I just kind of looked like I was dejected. I'm not going to win, but when we put things into perspective, yeah, I made it to Olympia 4 times in 3 different divisions. I don't know too many guys that have done that. I did it in the 202, the 212, and the classic physique. And I feel like I had a good career and very competitive. And if I look back, I wouldn't change a thing.
Now, when did you start the personal training business?
Yeah, I've been personal training for quite a long time. I actually started doing that in '95.
Yeah, well, from what I remember from my interview with you, you did it. You had some big names. Dr. Dre was one of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, at some point, I'd shifted my business and started a new company, and just really started taking on a good amount of celebrity and athlete clients. It's just, I live in that market in Los Angeles, and, living in the Valley, the accessibility, I had a lot of celebrities coming in and out of my gym, but Dr. Dre was probably the first big celebrity client that, put my name on the map for that type of genre.
I think Vin Diesel was one of your clients as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Vin worked with Vin as well. Got him ready for a couple of different movies, but yeah, he was another client of mine.
And I remember asking you in the interview that I did with you in that cover story, who I think was the best guy you've ever trained. I don't know if that was the correct phrase, but you mentioned the martial art. What's the UFC fighter?
Yeah, I also worked with George St. Pierre, UFC world champion.
Yeah, I remember that. So you didn't want to piss him off.
He was actually really, really probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Okay, so in between all this dieting and not eating and not going out, how did you do that? Stan McQuay not going out? I mean, you were always going out with different people in each arm.
Well, I didn't really know any guys. I didn't know any different. So I just incorporated my lifestyle because I was always going out. I practically lived in Hollywood. And I just kind of incorporated my lifestyle. So the trainer, when I first started doing all this, was Scott Marshall. And, he had told me, I don't care where you're at, you always bring your food with you. So literally I was known in Hollywood for bringing my food into the clubs. I literally would take chicken breasts, wrap it in aluminum foil, put them in my cargo pant pocket, and I would set my alarm. Doesn't matter what time it was, whether it was 11 o'clock or 1 a.m. in the club. If that alarm went off, I would go to the side and I would just start eating my food in the club.
Wow. Now, you were a hell of a high school football player, a hell of a bodybuilder, but in between, you seem to be getting in a little trouble here and there. What was going on with you?
Well, I mean, I kind of before I even started bodybuilding, I was kind of I don't want to say hanging out with the wrong crew, but yeah, I was hanging out with people from high school that I was still getting in trouble with. I had hung out with a lot of gang members, and that's kind of like, I was a fighter. So it was just one of those things that, you're a product of your environment. So I was still hanging out with some bad dudes and just getting caught up in a lot of bad shit for several years.
Well, you know, I teach at a community college, and I remember you telling me a really interesting. It was kind of funny, even though it's probably not funny. But you were attending Pierce College, and you said you looked up one day in the classroom. There's some police them there, and they pulled you out of the classroom and put handcuffs on, and they're leading you through the school with handcuffs, thinking like, what? Everybody's going, what the heck is going on here with Stan?
Yeah, that was an embarrassing moment. I remember because I hadn't been in trouble in a good amount of time, and I was really focusing on bodybuilding. And I remember sitting in class and seeing some detectives walk back and forth outside our classroom, and there was a guy in our room who just looked like a thug. And I was looking at him, he looked at me, and I said, "Man, I bet they're here for you." I said it as a joke. And then the minute we walk out, they cuff me and they walk me down the corridor at like 11 o'clock when it's like prime time school. And I just walking down the middle of the corridor, one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. And it was just for some stupid stuff that I had done when I was younger that finally caught up to me.
Boy, that didn't teach you a lesson. Nothing would, huh?
Well, I thought so, right?
You thought so until other stuff came. Okay, Stan the man, the family man. Let's hear when your single life turned into a husband and a father.
Yeah, so I've been married now for, what are we at? We're about 15 years. I've been married 15 years.
I figured I didn't think you'd ever get married.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. But yeah, I got married to my wife, Michelle, and we've been together for maybe 18, 19 years now. We have 3 kids. I have a daughter, Tatiana, my middle guy, Kai, and my young one, Zen.
Okay, now you're what, 52 now?
52.
Yeah, so you still look great. You're still in shape. You ever going to compete again?
No,
they're going to call you up with another new division like they have in the past. This one's going to be.
Yeah, I've done some things to make sure that I'm not going to compete. I mean, literally, if you see, I'm completely tatted up, so I'm not getting back on stage with all these tattoos.
Well, tell us a little more about this Physique Incorporated. Is that what your business is called?
Yeah, so Physique Inc. Basically, what we are is we are a coaching and nutrition. Yeah, pretty much. We get guys ready for competitions. I had a lot of amazing athletes that we've worked with, and because of the path that I've taken in my career, I just kind of pass that along to my coaches who pass that along to our athletes. So, for anyone that wants to be in the best shape of their life or even get ready for any competition, that's what we are known for.
Where do they get a hold of you if they want to hire your service?
You can go to our website, which is physiqueincteam.com, or you can reach out to our Instagram at Physique Inc. And just drop us a line.
Now, you mentioned Dave Kalick was one of your coaches. A really sad situation. He lost his life a few years ago. It shocked all of us, but I imagine it really hit you hard.
Yeah, Dave was my partner with Physique Inc. He was my best friend. He was like a brother. He was my first coach when I got ready for my first pro show, and he was my coach all the way until the end. When I retired, and he was there with me when you gave the nice speech for me in Long Beach, and he was an amazing friend, mentor, brother. Rest his soul.
Did you sense that there was anything going on with him personally that could have led to that?
Not at all. I mean, we all have our issues. We're all stressed out, and he had his demons. He had dealt with some stuff in the past with drug abuse, but that was far in the past. He just had some, I guess, issues in his life that he just couldn't handle, and I saw that. I didn't see that coming at all. He took his own life, and it was really traumatizing for me and my family because I just kind of felt guilt. I wish I was there to help him, and maybe I wish I could have done more. And we didn't see that coming.
Yeah, we all feel that way. I don't know if you knew Eric the trainer, which is a situation. He took his own life, and this the happiest, friendliest, most giving guy I think we all knew.
Yes,
and I think it was Thanksgiving Day, 4, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was. We found out that he took his own life.
Yeah, it's so sad, like no one saw that either. It's just I wish we could do more. I mean, I see a lot of people are preaching about, mental health now and speaking up. If you need a friend, uh, you know, anything we can do to help. If anyone's out there having stressful times and don't know who to talk to, just pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Because you can't just keep all these things in and bottled up. Especially as a man, like we have a lot of ego and a lot of pride, and we don't want to share our issues with other people. But this is probably one of the worst things you could do, is just hold these things in.
Let's get back to the bodybuilding world for a minute. What's your take on today's version of bodybuilding? Let's go to the Olympia. What do you think? Did you agree with the results?
It's fair. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the quality of bodybuilding right now. I mean, I do like the guys like Andrew Jack. I do like his shape. He's somewhat of a throwback to what we liked in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I don't know. I just kind of feel the quality of today's bodybuilder is not quite the same. And, I think there's a lot of factors that come into play with that. And one that comes to mind is, I think, the drug abuse has just been a little rampant. And, the introduction of all these new types of drugs, designer drugs, whatever they are. And these guys learning how to site inject. And I don't know. I just kind of feel like it's really dulling the look of a lot of these guys.
A lot of people talk about how the 80s and 90s and the early part of 2000s were the golden years. Do you agree that bodybuilding during that time was probably better than it is now, quality-wise, of the physiques?
Well, definitely quality-wise. I mean, it all depends on what it is that you like. Guys now are obviously a lot bigger, more dense. And some guys, maybe the conditioning is really extreme. I think a lot of things have changed over the years. I mean, the judging criteria, even though it's somewhat of the same judges, but when it comes down to it, in my opinion, the judging has got to change. I mean, if they keep rewarding guys that are using synthol, or rewarding guys that have, just blown out stomachs, that's the sport's going the wrong way, in my opinion. So yeah, I think the golden era, the 80s was amazing. The 70s was amazing. Even the 90s, in my opinion, better quality physiques then.
Lunsford versus Chupon. Who do you like?
I really like Lunsford's physique. This last Olympia, I sat right up front, and I think pictures don't really do that guy much justice, because I think he has an amazing physique. I think he rightfully won that division. Although Hottie, I was not a fan of Hottie's until a few years ago when I got to see him in person up close. My jaw dropped. The conditioning on this guy and some of the body parts on that guy were just amazing. So both really good competitors.
A guy that would look like he was going to be among the leaders for winning titles for a few years, but he kind of faded out of the picture, has been Hunter Labrada. What do you think's happened to Hunter?
Well, just from my recollection, I think he had a tear. Was it his pec? I think he had a pec tear, and what was that?
I think he did have a pec tear.
Yeah, I think he had a pec tear, and I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, granted, guys like Dorian had a tricep tear, bicep tear, both. I'm not sure, and he still was able to win. But I don't know, pec tear really, I think it really affects a lot of the poses. So, in my opinion, I think that hurt him a lot.
What about this beast they call Samson, who's going up over 300 pounds? What if he trimmed down, for lack of a better term, to maybe 260? What is he, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the biggest guys. He's got the great structure. I've yet to see him really dialed in. But yeah, I think, again, these guys get caught up in just being so big. We can go back and, go down the line. It's a size game when it comes to Olympia, but like certain guys like him, I'd like to see Nick Walker a little bit smaller, not try to be so big. So a lot of these guys, I think they're just playing the size game, and to me, it's making their physiques look worse.
Nick Walker's a very interesting person that you brought up. Everybody brings up his stomach. Who the people that are against his physique, those that like him, say he's got more muscle pound for pound than anybody in the sport. Could he possibly win the whole thing, the Arnold and the Olympia? Or does he not have the structure to do that?
You want my honest opinion? I mean, I think he has all the tools, but he just does not have the aesthetics. And, not to say that every Olympia winner has had amazing aesthetics, but when you're being compared against other guys that do have better aesthetics, it makes the case for him winning it hard. And then, I think, he's gotten a lot better with controlling the stomach. But, it is an eyesore when you see that, when he's going into transitions, when you see it, breathing in and out. So it's not really the best look. Does he have what it takes? He's massive. The guy is one of the biggest guys I've ever seen. We're so dense. Just, not put together the best.
You talk about massive, so are the paychecks for the winners. When I emceed my first Arnold Classic in 1993, the first place prize money was $60,000. When I emceed my first Olympia the same year, 1993, it was $100,000. Now it's $600,000 for the Olympia and $750 for the Arnold. Did you ever think you'd see the day that the prize money would reach those levels?
I was hoping they would. I mean, as a professional athlete, I mean, if you put things in perspective, is that good enough considering how much the industry produces?
It's not good compared to Rory McIlroy. He just won the second consecutive Masters, but
right.
A little different advertising in golf than we do in bodybuilding.
Correct.
But, who's your favorite of today's bodybuilders? Whose physique do you like the best?
If we're talking about the open bodybuilding, I like Andrew Jack. I like his physique. He's got some pretty freaky body parts. I like the flow. I would say Andrew Jack.
Okay. Anybody on the horizon coming up you think we ought to keep an eye out for?
Not really. I mean, the physiques that I truly like are a little bit in the smaller guys. Like I'm a big Keon Pearson fan, the 212 champ. I think that's probably one of the best structures I think I've ever seen of all of bodybuilding. Would you agree with that?
He's great, but I'm not so sure if he goes to the Open that some people think he would win the Open. I'm not so sure he could win the Open. What do you think?
Well, I don't think he has a chance winning the Olympia Open. He's just a little bit too small.
Jack and Samson and those guys.
Yeah, I mean, standing next to them, they're giant. They're big guys, and he's just really short. But, we're talking about just structurally when he's by himself, it's probably one of the best lines and structure I've seen. I can't really compare him to too many other guys.
A lot of people complained to me at the Olympia that said they didn't like the fact that the prejudging went on for the Open until like 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever, and then they had to come back the next day. What would you change if you had some authority? Anything that you would change at that show that would help the bodybuilders?
Well, I mean, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep the retention, trying to keep the fans in the seats so they can kind of see everything, right? But it's really drawn out. It's a little bit too long. I don't remember how the order was. I know they mix it up every year, but sometimes they'll pull these guys out 2 or 3 times just in finals alone. I've done shows where we did prejudging and finals in the same day, and there's been shows like the Nationals where it was prejudging the day before and finals the next day. My preference is that. I do like that. I don't have a problem holding conditioning, and it always gave me a chance to look even better on the second day. But I don't know. It's production is they're mixing things up, and these shows are so damn long.
Well, speaking of the shows being so long, some people think you ought to change it to more of an invitation type thing, where you don't have 50 or 60 people, at least in some of the other classes, that you got to bring in, and you end up sticking 200 or 300 people on stage through the weekend. What do you think?
I would agree. Like men physique, we'll just call it as it is. I mean, men's physique has so many guys. There's so many shows. So many guys get qualified, and granted, they run through the classes a little bit faster than they would with bodybuilding. But yeah, it's a little bit too many. It doesn't really. It gives the feel of, to me, that Olympia is just not as prestigious when you have 60 guys on stage in your class. Like anyone can just qualify.
Speaking of prestige, what do you think of the fact that the Arnold pays $150,000 more than the Olympia now for first place? We never thought that was going to happen.
Well, I always felt and I always knew that there was some type of competition behind the scenes amongst, Arnold, in his show and the Olympia. And now it's happening. Or Arnold stepped up and just upped the ante. Is that right?
Yeah, you up the ante, but they have less people. They're invitation only. So
it's always been like that, right?
Yeah, Jake Wood's got to fly in all these other people and extra hotel rooms and so forth. So it's an interesting problem. I'm glad I don't have to deal with it. But
I agree.
Stan McQuay's workout 2026. What's it like?
Oh wow, 2026. So I'm in really good shape. I'm not in bodybuilder shape because I don't want to be bodybuilder, but I want to maintain some muscle. I work out 5 days a week. I work out with my wife. For the most part, I'll let her kind of dictate what we're doing. But I make sure I go in the gym on the regular. It's like brushing your teeth. I just cannot miss. I just don't let it be, I don't let it be a priority in my life where it's like I have to be at the gym at 9 a.m. I fit it in wherever I can.
Do you still go to the same gym?
Yeah, I'm back at the old Powerhouse, which is now the Crunch in Chatsworth.
Okay, where you say you were back? Where were you before?
I took off. Angel Banos opened a Gold's Gym here in Northridge a couple years ago. I was training out of that gym for a little while, but it's too hectic in there.
Oh, he did have one in there. I know that Gold sold everything except Venice, so it's EOS.
It's now EOS, correct?
Yeah. What was the Northridge gym? A nice one?
Yeah, it was a nice one, but it's just so crowded. You couldn't get a good workout in there.
It's like Glendale. Glendale, they signed up 10,000 people in one day.
Just like that one.
Yeah. Well, what is your workout like? I mean, one body part a day, 2 body parts a day?
Yeah, so I think for me at this age, I just want to maintain a fit, somewhat bodybuilder look. I want to keep the muscle that I have. So I'm on a push-pull routine. So basically we do a 3-day split. So on day 1, it would be push. It would be anything from chest, shoulders, and triceps. Day 2, we would do pull. Back, traps, biceps. Day 3, we would do legs. Day 4, we would either take a rest day or we would repeat, just not do the same exercises that we did on day 1. So it's basically like a 6-day split.
Your wife. You're talking about your wife?
Well, that's what she does, the same thing I do.
Is she a competitor or was a competitor?
Yeah, she was a competitor back in Canada. She competed with Paul Dillet's federation. I don't remember what it was called.
Oh, the WBF, I think it was called. Or
something like that. Yeah, back in Canada.
Oh, okay. Well, what's your diet like these days? You seem to be fit. I remember out in Northridge years ago. What was the name of that place? I was meeting somebody to discuss my contest, my graphics guy, and you were there for lunch. What was it? Chili's, maybe?
Oh wow, that was a long time ago, eh?
That
Chili's. Yeah,
that was 25 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy. You remember that?
Yeah, we're woofing it down there, man.
That's right.
How's this guy at the way he's eating? I don't look like that. I'm following his diet, but I don't look anything like the guy.
Yeah, I think 25 years of competing and dieting kind of instilled a habit in myself with our eating and my kids. They don't diet, but they eat healthy. So meaning we're always going to opt for protein for every meal. We adjust the carbs here and there. I still don't really eat much sugar. So, I just maintain a healthy life. I only eat 3 times a day, drink maybe 1, maybe 2 shakes a day, and that's it.
You're still in Porter Ranch?
Yeah, I'm in Porter Ranch. Yep.
Okay, now tell us a little bit about your kids. You mentioned them briefly, but how about a little more? Your oldest is what, 22, something like that?
22, yep, 22. Tatiana, she was a professional dancer. She danced with the likes of Justin Bieber, Janet Jackson, many different performers. And then she wanted to do acting. She had her own TV show on HBO called Gordita Chronicles. She's done a couple movies, so she's very active. She's no longer living here. She bought her own house at 20 years old in Santa Clarita, and she's doing well for herself. So I still have my 2 boys here. One son just started high school. He's 14, just turned 15, playing baseball. We went to Japan last year. He played baseball in Japan, so he's a pretty good player. Hopefully we get him in a Division I school at some point. And then my youngest one, he's 13. He plays soccer for LAFC. That's the route he wants to go. We push him hard on that.
You like being a dad?
I love being a dad. It's the best feeling ever.
Especially, you're pretty proud. Are you one of the parents who go to the game and you're screaming at the umpire when they call a strike three, and you think it's
I've been that guy. I don't do that anymore. I've learned because my kids tell me exactly what they want. They say, when you sit in the stands, you're not to say a word. I can't even do this. I can't even shake my head anymore. They don't want me saying anything. So I just sit there and I back them up. Yeah. I go to every game.
what's and looking back, is there anything different you would have done in your career?
Uh, if anything different in my career, yeah, there's quite a few things actually. So, one particular thing I think that was probably the worst thing I could have done was chasing that scale, chasing the weight, chasing the size. When I got into the 202 division, that was a good weight division. But when the 212 came, I remember there was quite a few guys that were coming down from the open. Some of these guys were competing around 225, 230. All they had to do is squeeze down to 212. So, meanwhile, I'm the opposite. The heaviest I had competed was 205. So, testing out the waters, started using other drugs, up in the growth, taking insulin, really messed up my physique. I would say if I can go back, I wouldn't get caught up in the size game.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier all the drugs that's even more rampant now than it was then. What are some of the crazy things you're hearing out there?
Well, because there's no science on how to use anabolic steroids, so it's all.
What are peptides? I hear that term, but I don't know exactly
Yeah,
what it is.
peptides are the new level. They're basically aminos. None of the peptides really so much for the most part we were using for size. Now these guys are taking a lot of the ones that are responsible for losing more weight, losing body fat, primarily for injuries. I use peptides now for injuries like BPC 157, TB 500, GHK socks, copper. These are amazing peptides that I probably wouldn't even be able to still be able to work out if I wasn't taking these.
Okay, well, I want to thank you. You've given us about 50 minutes of your valuable time on a Tuesday afternoon when you could be at a ball game or at a dance or somewhere. But I want to thank you for your honesty, and I've enjoyed getting, looking back. The story I did on you for Ironman was 16 years ago, and we
Wow.
talked about when I read your retirement speech, for lack of a better term. That was, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. Where have all the years gone, man? I mean, you're 52, I'm 38. I lost my memory's gone. But no, again, seriously, I want to thank you for taking the time for coming on at the last minute. I really appreciate it. I think the fans found out a lot more. I found out a lot more about you, and I know you better than most of them. So,
Yeah, man. I appreciate getting to know you too over the years. And one thing I'll never forget was every time I would run into you at an event, at a bodybuilding show, I would go, "Oh shit, there's Lonnie. I'm sure going to hear some shit." And sure enough, Lonnie would always come up and say, "Yeah, I heard about you this weekend. I heard you were out at a club. A bunch of students came in and said they saw you here, saw you there." And like, it was always that.
that's true.
That's
Well,
true.
hopefully, club anymore.
Yeah, no, I'm too old for that now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Stan McQuay for this great interview. We're over, under, we're out.
Thank you.